Hello, everybody, and welcome to this live event. It's great to see you all here. We'll just give people just a few seconds to join, and then we'll get started. Johan, you ready to go?
Yep, all good.
Okay. So, by the way, let us know where you're joining us from. If you tried Arkio, if you haven't tried it, what headsets you use. Feel free to comment in the chat. We'll try to keep this as kind of relaxed and casual as possible. We do a lot of things to show actually, so this will hopefully be a fun event. But my name is Hilmar. I'm the CEO of Arkio.
I'm Johan Hanegraaf, and I'm the head of product at Arkio.
So we wanted to do this live event to celebrate the launch of Arkio on the Meta Quest Pro and our new 1.3 release. This has been a super busy year for Arkio. We first went live on the Quest App Store in March. And for the last 6 months, we've been working very closely with Meta on getting Arkio ready for the Meta Quest Pro device launch. So we have many exciting things to share, many exciting things to show. As always with live demos like this, anything can happen and something probably will. So we'll just see how that goes. But let's get started. So first of all, let's just quickly look at the agenda. We're going to talk briefly about Arkio on the Meta Quest Pro. We'll cover a little bit what's new in version 1.3. We'll show a lot of designing in mixed reality, how all of that works. We'll talk about different use cases and kind of do these live demos. And we'll have a bit of a Q&A at the very end if you have any questions. So let's get going. We wanted to kind of take just a minute or two to talk a little bit about why we are building Arkio, what we're really trying to achieve here. So our mission is to create this spatial design tool of tomorrow. We want to allow anybody to design and collaborate and connect across realities. And this phrase across realities is becoming more and more important because increasingly we're starting to not only work in VR, but also in the real world and blending that with the VR world in mixed reality. Now, we think this is pretty important because we believe that spatial design, as it is being done today, is pretty inefficient. The current design tools really aren't built for rapid collaboration and ideation. People are making all kinds of very important decisions by looking at flat screens or renders, essentially. And misunderstandings and mistakes that happen during any type of spatial design can be very costly, especially if you try to fix them even after construction has started on a physical building. So we believe this is a pretty big problem to solve, and Arkio really is our approach, and solution to do that. With Arkio, you can easily sketch design ideas together. You can truly understand designs, at human scale, like by standing inside buildings that haven't been built. We're taking great care to integrate carefully into existing design tools and workflows. And you can collaborate in Arkio across different types of platforms. So it's not only for VR, you can use your phone, tablet, or desktop, essentially. So before we get started with the live demos, and by the way, I see more people joining, so please let us know in the chat where you're joining from. And again, I'll repeat what I said at the beginning. Feel free to ask questions or comment in the chat, and we'll try to keep this as kind of lively and casual as possible. But before we get going with the live demos, let's just look quickly at some of the highlights of what Arkio is. I'm going to start our trailer for the new release, and maybe Johan, if you just want to talk people through what they're seeing here.
Yep. So what we're seeing here is modeling in mixed reality. So we use the God scale to model, and you can directly see the other person as an avatar. You can mix and match reality by painting on top of the real world, then going from different scales, jumping back inside and keep making edits on your design. And the mixing of realities really opens up a lot of possibilities. The parametric engine of Arkio actually got enhanced, so we have more functionality now, more components. And what we're seeing here is mixing virtual portals on top of the real world. And we're going to show that a bit today as well, mixing and matching of realities. So there's a lot of possibilities with Arkio at the moment. It supports 24 people in the same space modeling in real time. We added a cloud functionality that we're going to highlight a bit as well today. We have Unity, SketchUp, BIM 360, Rhino, and Revit bidirectional links. And like Hilmar said, all of the like we support all sorts of devices. So not only VR, also iOS and Android devices. We have support for hand tracking to use on the Meta Quest devices. And all of the interactions can be done both with the hand and 2D screens. And you can update the parametric model at any time, jumping inside or working with your hands outside. We support LiDAR scans that can be brought in. And you see the engine at work, it's actually parametric, so it updates everything in real time. We work with flexible components that can be updated, very similar to other design tools like Revit. And we support BIM information that can come in and go out of Arkio, so you can continue the feedback loop with your favorite design tools.
Perfect. So we've been working very closely with Meta for the last year or so. First on launching Arkio in the Quest App Store in March. And for the last 6 months, we've been working closely with them on making Arkio really shine on the Meta Quest Pro. And we couldn't be happier with where we have gotten to today. So we were an official launch app for the Meta Quest Pro device. We got featured at the Meta Connect event last month. Meta has been exhibiting Arkio at trade shows. So for example, at Adobe Max, a trade show happened last month. And if you go to a local Best Buy that has a Quest or a Quest Pro demo station, you can actually try a special retail demo version of Arkio there. But one of the things that we find almost the most amazing is that we actually got featured in the official Meta Quest Pro app. So if you haven't seen that, then it's this. In this ad, Meta is showing different types of use cases, focusing a lot on the mixed reality aspect of the headset. And there's an architectural use case that you can see here, where an architect is actually creating a portal through a physical wall and looking at the scene beyond. Let me just go back to it and pause it right here. So you can actually see, the architect making, well, my network is playing with me. See basically the architect making here the portal into the physical wall and looking beyond. So this type of a use case actually is not some kind of a fantasy. Like this is now possible with Arkio on the Meta Quest Pro. You can literally create portals through physical walls and look at what could be beyond, like a virtual scenery beyond. And this opens all kinds of interesting possibilities when it comes to visualizing design options, things that have been very difficult to do before. You can literally walk up to that opening and look inside it. So we are really thrilled about this device. We think the Meta Quest Pro is pretty awesome. What's your take, Johan?
Yep. So I have one right over here. And you've probably seen it a bit around already because there's several reviews online of people that have been using the device. Now, we've been using this device ourselves also for some months. And I can really say that it's a big improvement over using the traditional headsets that are basically stuck on your face, especially if you need to do some casual work and need to share the headset, or if you want to combine working in mixed reality with working on physical screens and objects, the headset is very comfortable for usage. So if you see one of the main features of the Quest is that it has pancake lenses, and these lenses are actually much better than the Quest lenses and most of the other headsets. They have a much wider sweet spot. So typically these headsets, they have these kind of O rings, and you need to put your iris really directly in front of it. The Quest Pro is a lot more forgiving, so it looks a lot sharper. The image looks a lot sharper around the entire screen. The headset comes with a new set of controllers without tracking rings. So these controllers, they track by themselves. And this is also a major improvement. These controllers, they have a little stylus tip on the bottom you can attach. So you can also do also the drawing with it. And they have tracking literally everywhere. So if you are working in an office environment and your desk or something is blocking your view, the Quest Pro controllers would still be able to accurately track everywhere you go and everywhere you do. There's also facial tracking on the headset itself. There's cameras on the inside, and we can show that a bit later also, how that kind of helps to also in meetings and presence to work together. I think that I covered most of the things there, right, Hilmar?
No, I think it's good. I mean, this is such a game changer, and the color pass-through is like a complete game changer as well. Yeah. And like fully agree, like, you know, in one of the comments, the controllers just feel like solid. The headset just feels overall like very solid. So we're pretty happy with it. So why don't you talk to us about some of these things in version 1.3, Johan?
Yep. So we've been adding quite a few features. Some of them are a bit hidden away in like the modeling itself of Arkio, but like really obvious ones are the cloud file transfer, that making it a lot easier to bring files to and from Arkio from mobile devices like the Quest headsets. We have expanded our content packs with more content for like all sorts of vehicles. We can show that later. We have tutorial scenes and retail demo that we included also with the new version. So you can also onboard Arkio more easily by going to these demo scenes. The major focus for us has been on mixed reality capabilities, because the Quest Pro really enhances and brings that to life with the color pass-through. And so we've been focusing on the spatial anchors, how we could import rooms and work with the rooms and lock and align yourself. So it's less tricky to keep losing the position that you currently are working in mixed reality. So there's a lot of things in version 1.3. As Johan said, like we are going to talk about a lot of these things, like the cloud file transfer, and we'll show the expanded content pack and more. But we wanted to kind of get started focusing on some of the mixed reality aspects. Like we feel that with color pass-through on the Quest Pro and with things like spatial anchors, we are really taking mixed reality design to like a whole new level. So to do that, we have integrated closely with what Meta calls the presence platform. So spatial anchors, you know, pass through room import through something called the Scene API is a key part of that, as well as the face and eye tracking. But in terms of the mixed reality, when we went live on the Quest Store earlier this year, we added the ability to use pass-through on the Quest 1 and 2. Now, we allowed you to do all kinds of interesting things with that. You could actually place virtual objects in your scene. You could create magic portals, like see-through walls and things like that. But the real problem with that was that it was really difficult to align your virtual scene to the physical scene, which is very important when you're working in mixed reality. Like when you create virtual objects on top of reality, they have to stay there and not accidentally kind of move away. So to do that, we have implemented support for the spatial anchors to make it easier for people to start to modify their physical reality. We've added support to import the room from the Quest, room setup, which is, on the device itself. But that's not really enough. We had to think of new ways to allow people not only to lock the virtual scene in the physical world, but also to, when they want to take it out of alignment or to scale themselves and then to easily be able to snap back to alignment. So we've invented a new kind of way to do that in our UX to allow people to both lock the scene and to instantly align it again. So
this is pretty exciting stuff. As you can hear, we're pretty excited about this. It's better to just show this to you live than talk about this. So I'm going to switch to a live feed from my Quest Pro and show you a bit of a demo. So first of all, I'm going to take my camera and show you kind of the other part of my room. Does that look okay, Jon?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, so I'll remove this here. And then I'm going to present using my Quest feed. All right. So you see it okay?
Yep, looks good.
Excellent. So first of all, what you can notice when I put on the headset, I can see even part of the Arkio UI floating here above my table. And because this is now in color pass-through, I mean, it looks like it's part of my reality almost. But I'm going to walk over here and take a look at this scene. So here I placed the Arkio work table in my physical room. I'm looking at it like in God scale. It's like a tiny dollhouse in front of me, and I'm looking at one of our sample models that you have also in Arkio if you want to try it out. This model was entirely built in Arkio, by the way, so this is not an imported model. If you take a look at my bracelet, you can see that I have my pass-through toggle on, and you can see a new icon next to it, which is the lock icon. Now, I'm currently not locked in place. I can actually hit the grip button on my controller, and I can move the scene around like you typically do in Arkio. However, if I hit the lock button, now if I use the grip button on the side, the red button, the scene is actually locked in place. I can't move it. And the same goes for scaling. I can't use the grip buttons to kind of scale or rotate the scene. Now, if I want to unlock it, I can simply hit the lock button again, and I can move it around. And then I lock it. You actually don't need to use always the lock button. If you hit the grip button on the controller and just move the controller aggressively, so like this, you can actually snap out of the lock. And then when you're happy with where the scene is, you simply hit the lock button again, and it stays in place. So this is kind of the basic kind of US paradigm of how you can kind of lock, the virtual scene in place in the physical environment, like I'm looking at now. Now, I'm going to show you something that is pretty interesting. That is when I go into modeling in human scale. So I'm going to open up my home menu. This home menu is accessible also from kind of the front of the table. You can open it there anytime. Here you have various options to get started. You have the sample models, you can join a meeting and so on. But I'm going to go into Passthrough. And here I'm going to import a room from my device. Now, if I would not have set up the room already, I could open the MetaQuest room setup and go through the process of mapping out my walls. But I've already done that, so I'm just going to import the room. So what happened now is I am in human scale in a new scene. You can see the white outlines of my actual room. So I have like my walls, I have my floor, and I have my ceiling. And I can start to modify this. So let's say, for example, I open my create tool and I'm just going to place a chair right here. So very simple use case. I can pick up the chair, move it around, put it back down, and things like that. Now, if you look at my bracelet, you can see that I'm actually locked in position. When you import the room, we lock you in position. We do the same if you are working in pass-through and you place any object in the scene, because that's when we know that you want to maintain this alignment. I'm actually going to turn off my pass-through mode because I don't need that. I have brought in these walls around me. They are all covered with the pass-through materials, which you can find here at the bottom of the color picker, or here. And now when I look at my room, I can see a mixture of the virtual scene and my physical scene. I can see my wall here, but also a portal out into the VR world. And as you can see on the bracelet, I'm still very much locked in place. So let's do a few things, maybe to the scene. I'm going to apply this material here to the floor, maybe this to the ceiling as well. Maybe I'm going to create a window here. You can see as I create this window, this is one of our window components. So as I create it, you see all of the right dimensions. You can see the window pane kind of maintaining its size. You can see the glass that's already there. So this is a good example of how we can use parametric components now inside Arkio. Since I painted the floor, I'm kind of masking a part of my reality. So I really don't see kind of my couch, for example. I can simply select this primitive and the pass-through materials, and I can just extrude these into the real world. So there's a table here, there's a sofa, maybe the fireplace as well. And here we have a chair. So this is really quick to do. And on this side, I actually see my piano because I already specified that in the Quest room setup. And here I'm going to include my shelves here in the space as well. I can of course modify these bounding boxes. I can make them as big or small as I want to. So it's really to kind of intuitive to start to mix these realities. Now I can also make objects disappear. So let's say I go and paint some of these walls. I'm going to paint this wall and this wall. I can simply then delete this object around the piano and it's gone. So now I have a mixture of my physical space and something that's completely virtual. And if I go into my create tool, I can place maybe a new sofa here, maybe a table, and now completely redecorated my living room. But there's something pretty unique that happens when you are locked like this in human scale. So the bracelet tells me that I'm locked. If I try to teleport by holding the joystick forward, you can see actually that I can't do that. I just see a cross. If I go a little bit further away, I can actually teleport over there. And if I do that and I look back, I can see the room that I imported. I can see basically the space that I was in, but now I'm outside of it. And here's an interesting bit. If you look at the blue dot on the floor, this blue dot is actually telling me where I am in the virtual space relative to the physical space. So as I walk around, I back out. I now see the dot there, and then I move, I can see it move. And if I scale myself like this, it keeps moving around. I can even be at this scale and create, let's say, a skylight and look down, and I can see how I'm moving around in the real world. Now, if I want to align myself again to the real world, I simply take the teleport tool, so I can teleport anywhere here. But as soon as I get close to my actual position, we snap to it, and I release, and now I'm fully aligned again. So this allows you to model in human scale, but if you want to, you can just very quickly kind of scale out like this if you do it aggressively. And you can edit something on this side, and then you go back into human scale by teleporting to your location marker. And just like when I was working in God scale, you know, I'm now locked in position, which means that my grip isn't working unless I do it with force. And then I can actually move, I can rotate, and then I can simply snap back, and I'm aligned again. So Johan, are you ready to jump in with me?
Yep.
So I'm going to join a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see if Johan joins us as well. We're going to do some collaborative mixed reality modeling.
Yes, here I
am. There you are. So I'm going to try something interesting. Because I have this physical wall in front of me, I'm going to show how I'm going to create a virtual window on my actual walls. And in this case, of course, I'm not seeing my view outside because I'm just looking at the wall. But Johan here, he is importing a LiDAR scan of my garden, which he can then place. And what this does is it really allows me to imagine, so what if there was an actual window on that wall? And this scan is just done on an iPhone and sent directly into the Quest using our new cloud transfer feature. And I can even walk up close to my new wall window and just look outside. So this allows, again, all kinds of new and interesting workflows, whether you're doing something like this yourself or you're exhibiting some like new design ideas and options to your clients. There's just a whole new world of possibilities here. And of course, we can place different things in the scene, like Johan can place a much larger building out here, for example, if I was wondering what it would look like if I would have a huge, like, 5 or 6 story building in my garden. So it really opens up a lot of interesting possibilities. There you go. And I can go out here and I can look outside, what that would look and feel like. I could even like walk outside and stand outside in my garden as if it's actually there. And if I want to, I can blend kind of a part of reality here as well, like maybe see my actual window like this. So you can see how I'm looking both at kind of virtual portal and at my real window. So Johan, what about if we load something a little bit larger in scale, maybe a larger scene? Do you have something to show us?
Let me get one of the models. Yeah, I found one thing. I'm going to make myself the host of the meeting.
But we can see in my view here, I'm looking at a tiny representation of my room, but you can still see the location marker there in my room, and I could easily jump to it like this, or jump back up again and look at the model in this God scale.
So I just shared with you a model that should sync up anytime.
Okay. Yeah, I can see it syncing right now. It's a big model, I guess, so it's taking a while.
Yeah.
Well, we said anything could happen in a live demo, and I guess we have a bit of a delay now.
Something is happening.
Yeah, it's coming now. It's coming now.
Yeah.
Okay, this is pretty impressive. So where are we now, Johan?
So this is actually LA's convention hall, and this is where we were 2 weeks ago at the Adobe Max event. And yeah, this just fun as a little exercise to see what is possible and what you can load in. Now this model is loaded from Blender, and but you can load all sorts of models. And what we're going to show now is some of the new cloud functionality together with some of our plugins. So I'm going to be going back to my PC, putting off my headset, and I will just share my current screen. Oh, and so, like right now, we have plugins for Revit, Rhino, SketchUp, Unity. They're all bidirectional plugins. The way you can get your models prepared for VR and mobile, it's using those plugins, because they will do some optimization of your 3D geometry to make it more compatible for these mobile VR headsets. With our Revit plugin, you get a level of detail slider that can determine how much you want to decimate the geometry. And I already have this model, so I can directly show it live from our new cloud. So we have our cloud.arkio.is is our new cloud environment. It's very simple. You don't need any accounts or any setup. You just go to the Arkio or the cloud.arkio.is site. You fill a name of a group you're going to make. In this case, I'm just going to call it Arkio Live. And this group will then have an invitation code. This invitation code is then the code that you can also fill in on many devices. So you could share it with your Quest Pro, your normal Quest, your iPhone, like any device that you want to have these models loaded to. And at any later time, you can also invite more devices to the same group. The code themselves, I'm going to just copy paste it into the Arkio client, and we'll give that a bit of a time to start up. In the meantime, I'm going to upload that Revit model. So let's just find that model over here. I have here the Revit model. So these are all the files that got prepared from our plugin. We can just share those in the Cloud Portal uploads. This will pack everything up and make sure that it's going to be sent to the device. And I'm also going to just add a little Cybertruck because that's, and we can play with that file as well. So these two files, they're now in our cloud group, and using the version of Arkio on a PC, let me actually join the meeting that Hilmar might still be in. So there is Hilmar. So in the any version of Arkio, you could link the device to the cloud. So in this case, I can go to my imports, I can go to my cloud, and in the Arkio cloud, I just fill in the license key or the cloud group name key. So what that will do is it will start pulling the information from that group and start downloading it and processing it on that device. So if you have several devices connected to that same cloud key, they all get distributed and sent to those devices individually. Right here, I have my little Revit building. You see it still gets recognized as the Revit icon. And then from there, I can just lock it at the origin to work with it in the scene. So I have also loaded the little Cybertruck. Let's just put that in here as well to show that you can like place them directly. And what we can do in Arkio is add new geometry on top of that building that we bring in. So in this case, I maybe want to add a few balconies over here, and maybe I want to add like a extension on the roof on the top here. And maybe I want to communicate, and maybe I would be on the iPad or another device, that these balconies, they have to go. We don't want them anymore. Let me just finalize this by just putting some trees in the scene. And now it's all a matter of exporting this scene back to Rhino, Revit, or any other supported design tools. I can do that from our scenes panel. I would need to be the host in order to control the meeting. And then from here, I can export. So we have, for the cloud exports, I can see if I'm linked to the cloud. I can toggle if I want to export locally for maybe high security projects that don't that you want to process locally or in the cloud. And from these formats, it will just prepare the files accordingly. And in case of Revit, I will just click it to show that. If we would have the Quest, for example, you also want to get your pictures that you make in Arkio, you can also send those to the cloud. So to make it easier to not have to worry about USB cables with the device anymore. So that's it. From this moment on, I could just go back to my cloud, and in downloads, it should show my export that I just did. And from here, I could just download that file right away. And in Revit, I can use my import function, go to the download page and open the file. I already loaded it here, so we don't have to wait. This will convert all the Arkio geometry and everything that got modeled into native Revit families that you can continue working with. So we see we even have that entire photo geometry model of LA came into a family. We have the little trees and the Cybertruck come in as an individual family that can be updated. Let me just maybe select my options. So this is really something you can just swap out still for any other family that you would have in your project environment.
Very cool. We believe that this cloud transfer feature is, going to change really what you can do and like easily you can work with Arkio. This works across any device, so you can send these like to iPads, like phones, to mobile VR devices, obviously as well. And you can do it in both directions, and it's really easy to set up. There's no account needed or anything. You just go to like cloud.arkio.is and you get started. So before we continue, we had one question here from Juan Sebastian. Will the mixed reality features of 1.3 also be available on the Quest 2, at least partially? Now, the good news is they all are, with the exception of color pass-through. So you can use the spatial anchors, the room import, everything we showed on the Quest 2, just like we did, with the exception of the color pass-through. You will have black and white pass-through. So we think that's pretty important. There's a lot of people out there with Quest 2s. So we wanted to make sure that this is fully compatible with our entire Quest 2 user base. All right, so let's toggle back to the slides. And I'm going to share my screen. There we go. So we talked about a few different kind of mixed reality use cases. We've shown interior design, a type of design reviews even. You can work on kind of, metaverse design. You can start to blend kind of the real and physical world together in interesting ways. And you can, do architecture design. You can actually place like a virtual model like in the physical world and see what it would look like. And we did an interesting experiment. We went out to the Icelandic countryside, and we took our villa sample model and we tried placing it, outside. And this actually worked pretty well. You can here see the live kind of color pass-through feed from the Quest Pro. And here I'm looking at this kind of scene in God scale, but then I just jump into human scale and I can see it like at full scale in the actual physical environment. It's easy to go back and forth between, the kind of the God scale and being in human scale, which means that you can easily kind of, scale out, even make adjustments to the design, and then you can jump back to human scale to see what that really looks like. And I can tell you, it feels almost, magical to be able to do this. You can modify the building. You can, mess with it in any way you want. You can add geometry on top of the real world. Plant a few more trees, for example. Change the size of windows and openings and whatnot. And with some of the new parametric components, you can be pretty accurate, even to the point you can select one of these dimension labels and type the exact dimensions you want, and then just hit enter and it changes. And here you can see me standing inside the virtual building and then kind of revealing the view or looking basically around. And this looks like it's like a 360 panorama, but this is like a live pass-through feed on the Quest Pro. And then of course I can delete the window and just walk outside. So this opens up all kinds of interesting opportunities and workflows when using something like the Quest Pro with the color pass-through. Okay, so Johan, I think you had a few more things that you wanted to show us on your end. Taking this a little bit more to the extreme.
Yes, let's start mixing a bit more what we can do with reality and modeling, adding things on top of it. So let me just share my Let's do this one.
And just a quick time check. We have like 20 minutes to go, so maybe we'll do like 7, 8 more minutes of kind of showing you these demos, and then we'll get to the Q&A part.
So right now, I believe you guys can see my feet. I'm walking around in my current living room, and I see a few models that I have prepared over here. So here we see like some of that spatial anchoring that Hilmar showed also, me moving around in various options of the design, and I can just jump in and look at the options in real time. I'm going to just show that also in VR, so it looks a bit more light outside. So I could just jump in between these various models and see all sorts of different designs in my current living room. And let me just.
And if it's not clear, like, and if you look at the location markers, you can see really, if you look a little bit more down, there we go. You can see how it's snapping to the location markers. And in this scene, we actually have 3 of them, like for 3 different types of rooms.
Yeah, so let me just focus a bit more on that. So you see, when I'm really walking around, it's like showing the dot move in real time as well. And then I can just jump into any of these scenes and really explore various design options on top of my surrounding. So this is one way to work. What we could also do is we can completely bring complete virtual scenes into our environment and start looking at them from all sorts of angles. So we have here the Cyber City from Rashan Bats, one of our power users. That model is one of the sample models in Arkio that you can explore for yourself as well. What I added here is a few rooms that basically are just maps to my current size. They're just hollow boxes. If I jump inside of those, it will actually put me into the model, in the virtual model. So now when I look outside in my current living room, I'm actually seeing how it would be like to walk around in an apartment in Cyber City.
Yeah, you should look down a little bit. You just show a little bit more. There we go.
Yes. So really seeing everything in the view. If I go to this view over here, so we see also we can start adding holes in our floor, and we can do all sorts of interesting interactions. I'm going to just make a couple of steps here. So I'll just use the paint tool and paint the top surface. So I'll just make a couple of plateaus in this environment, and we can start walking on those. So you can also start really mixing and matching your own mini game if you're up for mixing and matching realities. And I see Hilmar, you're currently in my living room now.
There I am. I'm in Iceland, but I'm in the Netherlands.
Yes. So it's really interesting what you can do with this, and bringing in objects from virtual reality and then bringing in your real objects and mixing and matching that. It's really powerful and also very interesting when you think of it in the sense of Arkio, but also other models that you can load in. So what happens a lot in building, information modeling, and in architecture is we make a lot of 3D models, and use cases for mixed reality there are also very exciting and interesting. So when I have, let's see, this one. So I have a little model prepared over here that has a BIM model loaded and aligned to my current environment. So let me just jump inside of my apartment here. So what we're seeing over here, it's actually a BIM model that got overlaid with my apartment, my real surrounding. What I can do is I have this pass-through material shape. If I adjust my pass-through material shape, I can see the virtual model, and I can basically look as almost like a supervision. I can look through my current ceiling and see all the insulations and ducts that would be in my installation. And if I would then maybe want to make suggestions or additions, I can make model suggestions on top of the model in real time. And that's really where Arkio's power, of course, shines through. You could model on top of the environment and add new things. Also, when you think about issue management, in VR, you can spot issues a lot better because you're seeing them from human perspective. So right here, I'm seeing a beam that is intersect or very close to one of the electricity ladders. And this is, of course, not what we want. We want to have, let me just make a sketch on this object to highlight that this is definitely a clash that needs to be solved. Let me just make it a bit fatter so we can see it better. So you see, like, I'm making a sketch here on top of that object, but I think a sketch is not enough. I want to give instructions of where that duck has to move. So let's give it a bit of a distance from the previous one, but still allow people to like use this then to load back into Revit models. Now, talking about Revit models, everything that we mapped in here, everything that LiDAR scans that got imported, everything that you managed to bring into Arkio, it can be brought back to Revit as well. And then for showing that, I actually have a little image. Let me just select this, maybe make a 1 meter image. And I'm going to place that image on my bookshelf here. So I have an example of this scene in Revit. We can just directly load everything to Revit. And then we have a proper mapped out environment, mixed reality environment in Revit that we can continue working with elements that can be updated again, back and forth between Revit and other tools.
Okay, Johan, so I think we're running a little bit out of time. So
yeah.
do you want to very briefly like show the new components in the scene before we wrap up the live demo part?
Yes, let's do that. I have it right over here. So let me just show you that quickly in mixed reality. So we have this is an overview of all the components, all the smart components that we currently have. So we're getting quite a few right now. And we did some improvements on these components so to make them more easily editable. Next to our smart components and geometrical shapes, we also added quite a few more props and objects to decorate your scene, and a lot more materials to paint and to populate your scene.
Very cool. And maybe to end with, like, can you show us your avatar on the, if you open the settings menu?
So let me just put the headset on a bit correctly because I think I don't have it in front of my eyes correctly. So let's put it like this. So you see when I'm pinching my eyes, it's actually really pinching and looking up and down. And when I'm moving my mouth left and right, it's updating that in real time. And when I'm winking, it's also updating that. Even if I'm puffing my cheeks.
This is
yeah,
pretty cool.
Fun. Yeah.
Yeah. This really does add kind of like a new dimension in terms of presence when it comes to these, these collaborative meetings that you do. So I'm just going to remove Johan here. There we go. So we showed a lot of stuff. We showed like a mixed reality design, the new cloud transfer feature. We showed different mixed reality use cases, the new content pack, face and eye tracking. There's a new kind of demo mode in Arkio that we didn't have time to really get to, but if you open Arkio and go into getting started, you'll see their tutorial scenes, and it's going to take you through kind of the very kind of early steps of getting started with Arkio. And that is actually the same kind of tutorial or demo that you will find in like the local Best Buy if you have a Quest and Quest Pro demo station there. So just to kind of to wrap this up before we start talking about the questions, we are really excited about what we've been able to achieve, on the Quest Pro and on the Quest before that. We believe that the mixed reality use case is critically important, and the Quest Pro with the color pass-through is practically the first standalone like VR headset that offers these capabilities. And we have no doubt that there will be many, many more devices coming down the road in the next, few years that will offer similar capabilities. And people will start to embrace the possibility to really kind of modify their physical reality in this way. Whether you're kind of redecorating your living room or your house, or you're like working at a big architecture project or working at the construction site, there's a lot of possibilities, obviously. If you haven't had a chance to try Arkio, we would just encourage you to download it. Like if you go to arkio.is, you can try it for free. Like we are on all of the app stores, and we'd love to hear what you think. Give us like a shout out by email or on the forums or Discord or social media. Like we are really here to hear what you think, because from the very beginning we've been developing Arkio with the community, and we want to like continue doing that. So that being said, let's look at some questions. So where should we start? So we already answered the question about if the mixed reality features are available on the Quest 2. They very much are. Will Arkio work with Pico 4? So the answer is not yet, but in general, we support a lot of different devices with Arkio. We support different VR devices than just the Quest. So like we have a roadmap for adding more devices down the road for sure. So stay tuned on that. So what else? Can all parties in a meeting enter human scale at the same time? So the answer to this is yes, everybody can enter human scale at the same time. What we showed was a use case where I am in my physical room and Johan is remote, and we can be in whatever scale we want to. Like we can be in human scale both, or both in God scale, or vice versa. Now what we did not show, which is something that will come later, is the ability to have multiple people in the same location, all being like anchored to the same space. Using something that's called shared spatial anchors. And this is something that we believe will be important going down the road when these become available. And they will allow you to essentially have all kinds of interesting co-located use cases, so to speak. So, and here we have a question whether it's risky to have the headset out in direct sunlight because of the lenses and heat during the summer months. So the answer is quite possibly. We did a test. It doesn't get that warm in Iceland, so it was kind of safe. But like we should say that Meta does not recommend using these devices outside. So do that at your own risk. But even if you would be inside and you would be looking outside and at some like model that's being worked on, developed, or a cityscape or something, that is also a very, very good and important use case. In the future, we have no doubt that more and more people will be using these devices outside. And I was actually surprised how well the spatial anchors were able to lock onto the ground that I was basically working on. Pretty amazing.
An interesting note here is that the controllers, like in the Quest 2, they don't really work outside because of the infrared light, but the Quest Pro doesn't have that problem because of the self-tracking controllers. Yeah,
the new controllers are pretty amazing in that regard. I mean, these are like mini computers, basically. Like there's a mini CPU in them. So here's a question for you, Johan. How did you make 3 rooms locked for human scale in the same scene?
So what I made actually was like 1 room imported. I just decorated and made it fully to fit that one room as what I wanted as an example. I just copied that room a bunch of times, and in each of these rooms, I aligned my scene, made sure that it was correctly aligned before I started modeling in human scale. And when you're modeling in Passthrough and Human Scale, we basically lock your scene in place. So that's what I did to all these 4 scenes. I just aligned them by eye accordingly, and then locked them in place. And then it shows that little marker of where you can teleport back into that space.
So essentially, the system we've implemented with the spatial anchors, it allows for multiple locked positions in one single scene.
Yeah.
And what I did in my demo is I had just one locked position because I imported the room and I was already locked there. We actually allow you to create another locked position if you teleport like 10 meters away. As soon as you start to model something, like with the pass-through material or on pass-through, or simply if you would hit the lock button on the bracelet.
Yeah.
So you can have as many of these as you want actually, and like just jump between them. You can like, go down to one, go back up to God scale, and go down to another one. So it's a really powerful system in many ways. Okay, so Johan, is it possible to upload a Matterport design in Arkio?
If you can convert it to like a generic mesh in OBJ or GLTF GLB format, it can come to Arkio. So I believe Matterport allows also for mesh exports because it's combination of photogeometry with laser dimensions. So I believe if you can export it to a mesh, you can bring it to Arkio. There are limitations to what you can bring on a device like a Quest 2 or a Pro. We have like the maximum set to 1.5 million polygons. So that's something you want to pay attention to when you want to load really large models in the Arkio and the Quest in general. There are several tools and workflows for optimizing those models if you're looking for something like that.
And I guess it's the same question about point clouds. Like you will need to convert them to a mesh essentially.
You would have to convert them to a mesh for now. Like the problem with point clouds is that the files are generally quite large, and the Quest and Quest Pro, they have limited capacity when it comes to RAM memory. So the data sets themselves will probably not fit on the device. If you have a mesh, you basically condense all these points into a texture, which is a lot more suitable for a device like a Quest.
So maybe you can take 2 more questions before. I'm going to answer one of them. While Johan, can you maybe get your Quest Pro ready and just show people where they can find the room setup on the Quest, and so we can stream that. But in the meantime, let me see if there's some other question here. So here from David, is there any chance the locked scale could be used in a review? Would be helpful to control the scale of users during a meeting when presenting. So there are 2 kind of aspects to this, kind of locking people in the physical world when they're together in a meeting. Something that we are working on when it comes to co-located users, and we are always improving how you can present in Arkio and control where people are, what they can see, and what scale they can be at. So that's for sure something that we'll be looking at improving even more than what we have done already. So here's a question about gathering information of avatars and the expressions. That's something that we don't do, and we don't have really plans for that, but it's an interesting idea, like to get feedback from people while they're exploring or reviewing designs, how they feel about them, essentially. So we'll consider that. So Johan, you want to, share your feed? There we go.
So I'm currently sharing already the feed. I was just going out of the meeting. So the pass-through tutorials and the way to import your room can be found from the home panel. The home panel can be found on the table or on your wristband or on your general UI. And from here, you can open the Meta Quest room setup. That will open experimental tool. Now I have already set this space up, but let me just redo the wall so you can see a bit how this works. So your room setup, you're basically determining the corner point the height of your space, and then you just you map out the actual corner points of your room. Now my room is very simple, so it's a square. Maybe you have a bit more complex room than me. And after you've done that, you can also add other objects. So in here, I'm just adding this cabinet. And let's do also this little table, or actually let's just add a door here. So I have a door right over here. And when I'm done with that and my room setup is completed, I can go back into Arkio. Where am I? Oh, here. I can import the room that I just made. That will basically directly put me into that scene that I just modeled. And then this could be the starting point for mixing and matching reality.
Excellent. So you can both access this from, from inside Arkio, or you can go into the settings on your Quest, and there under experimental, you will actually find the room setup, so you can just try it yourself. So Johan, I think it's time to wrap up.
Okay.
So again, thanks everybody. It's been great to have you here. I hope you're as excited about kind of this next chapter in Arkio as we are. Mixed reality allows for all kinds of exciting use cases, and this is just the beginning. Like, we keep talking about where this is all heading, and we think a lot about that. And we have a lot of ideas how to take this way beyond what you saw today. So stay tuned on that. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.